Hello and welcome, everybody. You got Larson and Jack here with another episode of Aprés Sales. And today, what we are talking about is outbound sales, but specifically around prospecting. And the concept is outbound sales dead in terms of prospecting. So we're going to dig into some of these topics here today. But first, Jack, how are you doing today? And what are you drinking on this afternoon?
Doing great. It's been one heck of a week. Excited for future announcements to come. But I'm going to be burning the midnight oil today, and it's also a little earlier in the day when we're recording it. So I got a nice Spindrift iced tea, if you could see it. But Spindrift is pretty wonderful. So loving it. What about you?
I did follow suit. I got a little lime Spindrift. So Spindrift, if you're looking for a sponsor or someone to sponsor, here you are. But well, cheers, buddy. It's been a hell of a week. We got a lot of work to do. But let's dig into it today.
Yeah. Is outbound sales dead, Larson?
Well, I tell you, I've been doing this for a while, and I think the short answer is no. I mean, anytime that someone says that X thing is dead, or cold calling is dead, or email prospecting is dead, or this is dead, or that's dead, it's not really dead. I think the truth of the matter is it's just changing. And I think what's happened, or what I've noticed throughout my career, is I started as an SDR, became an SC, and then I moved into an AE role. And even throughout that journey across 3 years, like the strategies we deployed and how the market is accepting, outbound prospects, it's just changing. The strategies change. The things that worked 6 years ago, or whatever, just don't really work as effectively anymore. And so we have to really be changing. And I mean, Jack, I know you get a ton of outbound messages just like I do. Like, what are you noticing about what you get from people and what draws your attention?
Yeah, I'm reminded of an episode of a podcast called The Startup Chat that I don't think they're doing anymore, but Steli Efti and Heaton Shaw had the Startup Chat for a while. And I remember, this is probably, 6 years ago now that they posted an episode, but it was about similarly, I think they were talking about email, but they might have even been talking about outbound email. But, I remember a quote from them saying, well, is good email dead? Is good outbound dead? Yeah, but great outbound is as good as it's ever been. And it's just that the bar is being raised, I think, and what people expect. Like you said, I get a lot of cold email, and there's a lot of things I don't like about what I get, but it's still definitely possible to stand out. I mean, from the initial one, from what will get me to spend more than half of a second to look at a cold outbound email that I receive is at least high-level personalization, not the name and the company name, but something about me or my history or the company, something topical and relevant, at least will get me to look at the email. So even just something as simple as that gets you that extra few seconds at least.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. And I've just noticed from receiving a lot of these, I notice how I delete emails and my behaviors, and that's actually influencing how I reach out to people, because the split seconds that you have of attention is so few right now. So that layer of customization is so important nowadays. The bottom line, the strategy has to change. And, what I've noticed, even email formatting, years ago, I could write lengthier emails, bigger paragraphs. Now it's shorter emails, 1 or 2 lines per paragraph. But before we get into the structure of the emails and all that, where it starts is just deeper research. You need to know a lot about the company, that persona that you're reaching out to, current events that are happening in the news. And what I try to do is, sometimes it might be a little overbearing, it feels like, but I dig into all the earnings reports. I would go onto YouTube. I listen to what happened on the quarterly earnings call. I look into 10K reports. I look at how are you hiring people on LinkedIn? What job postings do you have out there? Sometimes we'll even deploy a bottom-up strategy. We'll reach out to AEs just for a conversation, for fact-finding, just to get as much information as possible to create a message that actually resonates and is quite customized.
Yeah, you've done a great job with that. I mean, I can't remember if we mentioned it on a previous one, but I'll never forget the call with a customer who said, I think you might know more about our business than I do. And, that's where it's at. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that I helped a little bit on the outbound side is just the good content that you can deliver, the value forward content. And I'm not talking about, like a video like this, although this can be helpful in the right context. Mm-hmm. But for us, something topical and relevant to your business that you can deliver value forward with no ask, right? So for us, we built a lot of, since we're, big into the CRM documentation and live call enablement, MedPick, discovery templates, things like that we could deliver and just give people. Here's something that you might find useful. And building up that baseline I think respect at a certain level, but also just like understanding with the person you're talking to that, all right, these people know what they're talking about and they want to genuinely help me, even if, of course, initially nothing is in it for them.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I've tried to do, because creating content is really tough. It just is. It's like, but I try to focus on what do we need at Gondola?
Yeah.
What would help us and our sales team? And also, as I'm going through sales cycles, what am I hearing from customers or potential customers that they're struggling with in the commonalities there? And once we see that, it's like, okay, maybe there is an ebook that needs to be created. Maybe there is a template specific to spin selling or Bant or Medic or Challenger or whatever it might be that we could provide to people. And we'll use that content in multiple ways. We'll use it for prospecting and marketing, but I'll actually give it to people when they're in our sales cycle and use it in workshops. So I try to find these kind of 2-for-1 type of deals that helps us, but then also allows for promotion. And it also, like, one thing that's just really important to me is the content has to be good. It has to be actually good. It has to actually be helpful and accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. Otherwise, what are we doing here? And so this helped me kind of refine that the content ideas, at least on the front half, if I'm using them for us, but then using them with our customers as well.
Yeah, and the content has to be good, and I think it also has to look good. It's a learning we've had. I wish we have a wonderful designer on our team named Daria, and she has helped revamp the product, the marketing materials, everything. And I wish we had her years ago because it has to be good, but something that is quality but looks like garbage. I mean, we know this from software design today. Like, it's just not going to work. It has to look just as good as the content is.
Certainly. And word to the wise, startup tip: hire a designer early, because they'll impact your business across the entire company. They'll help on go-to-market. They'll help on product. And when you sometimes think you're really good at building assets and stuff, and then you get someone who's a real professional, okay, I'm going to take a step off this. I'm going to let her do it because she's incredible and does it 10 times better than I could ever do. But you're right. I mean, deliver value first, no ask. And I also try to focus on, as I'm reaching out to people, almost creating connections between the first email, the second, third, and fourth, almost like you're taking them on a journey, right? Here's an ebook that helps with discovery process. Here's a template that's blank that helps with discovery process. Here's a video on different methodology you could use just to help to layer on additional pieces of value that have points of connection to each other, because I think that can be really, really helpful and quite impactful when you're walking through that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, outside of outbound, which I think is a motion that you just have to have at some level in an organization, even if you're a product-led growth, but getting a product-led growth motion going, or at least experimenting with it. We've gone kind of ebbed and flowed as time has gone on our product-led growth motion, getting it back going again. And I think just the importance of, like, especially in the early days, figuring out when you don't know your go-to-market strategy and you aren't totally sure what's going to work. The product-led growth motion is a great experiment. Obviously, it can take off on its own if it goes well. But even if not, it gives you a leg up in the sales cycle to help demonstrate the value so that the people internally don't just have to go off of marketing materials and assets, but can go off of their own experience with the tool to help sell it to the larger organization.
Yeah. Well, and too, the interesting thing about product-led growth is, like, a trend is, historically not every company could be a self-service product-led growth traditional type of company, because sometimes you have really complex softwares. They take a lot of setup, but there are solutions out there, like right now, like Aprés, that can really help, and others that can help with creating these different demo environments that you can send to people, whether it's for marketing materials on your website or actively in the sales cycle to gauge engagement. It's kind of that concept is opening up to people, even if you have a really pretty complex product. So it can really, change how you're going to market quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thank you all for tuning in here today. Just in summary, so Outbound certainly is not dead, but it has changed, right? We need to change our strategies. We need to do deeper research on who we're reaching out to, deliver value first with no ask, create a journey that is connected as you're reaching out to these people. And if your company is one that does entertain product-led growth, it could be a really helpful way to help speed up those sales cycles, get value first, and make sure you get people in the product and actually experiencing it. So cheers, Jack. It's been a great week, but thanks for the time. Thanks, everybody.
See ya.